So here's an interesting article. So Ray Kurzweil, who is a futurist, and by the way, this is an interesting article because I followed him for quite a bit. I think he's said interesting things over the years. He's been around for quite a while. He has an interesting story because I think he made one of the telespeak or something like that. And the speaker, he created, this is right up his alley, the whole language learning model thing. Because actually, I think a lot of people don't realize, but the language learning models, they actually started from the 80s. It's not new technology, believe it or not. We're just now kind of starting to, use it, but really, or I guess, the amount of data collected, it took this long, I guess, to get it running. But really the principles are based on ideas that they had during the 80s. So Ray Kurzweil is actually kind of the perfect person to speak on this. And what I would say is that, so I've watched a lot of his interviews before, and it's interesting to me that it's interesting that people are talking about this, and I guess I might as well just say my 2 cents, or talk on the idea of AI. And to me, what we call AI, right? I call it, or generative AI. I like to call it Gen AI just because, as opposed to AI, because I feel like AI is, I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm ready to call this AI. I don't know if this is true AI, right? Or if this qualifies as that. Because, when you think about Siri, those are, or even the Clippy, right? From the Windows, that little clip that used to walk around or talk to you. And I guess what I'm saying is that even if we were to, when we talk about AI, what does it mean, right? At what point, even if something is capable of answering words by association, it doesn't necessarily mean that the object understands what it's saying. Does that make sense? You could program, language is not that complex, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so this idea that, we have AI and it's able to talk to us, yeah, but it wouldn't be that hard to create a program, or in this case, to create something that can, if you say something, it can connect it to other things, and chances are that you'll be able to say the same thing, especially in the way that we speak today. It's really not that complex. Young people learn how to speak fairly quickly, and it does not require, language is not a complex thing, is what I'm saying. And so, that's what I'm trying to say, is we cannot be fooled just by a machine that can just speak and it sounds like it's saying something that makes sense, right? So in the same way that you wouldn't just trust a young person, who could repeat or if on command say something, but then, say something back to you that makes sense, but that doesn't mean it actually understands what it's saying, or that it is a separate sort of entity. Now, as far as, but, that's just one way of looking at it, because the other way is that I really don't know. Now, I understand that there are so many uses that this has. So, for example, being able to take images and just create, and just not create, but put together things. It amalgamizes whatever is there. And so, and the other thing, of course, is it does this with mathematics as well, the ability to do many things at the same time. So something that would be, it's not that a human can't possibly do it. I don't think it can do something that we can't possibly do, because because that doesn't make sense to me, right? Like anything that could be done, a human could do if it had enough time to do it, right? And so that's the issue with AI. It's able, for example, to do mathematical, from what I've read. Like one of the things, it can solve mathematical problems that would just be too time consuming for us. And also, it could even do it through trial and error. But it could find connections that we might not be able to find as easily, because it has so many things at the same time. That's what these, like NVIDIA, these chips, these video game chips, like video games, because video games did so many things at the same time, right? They had audio, visual, and inputs and outputs, and it all had to be done in real time. That's what these video game chips were. That's what NVIDIA specialized in. And so that's what's happening here. Is it's really just a video game. It's just, it feels like, oh, it's organic. Look, it's talking to us. But in reality, it's not really, like, it feels like it's organic. It feels like it's in real time, just like a video game does, right? That's what these chips can do. But, you know, it's just a video game, right? It's just doing it in real time. And I think the speed at which it does things and makes these connections, and the way that it connects everything, makes it seem like it is an intelligence, right? So I understand why they call it AI, but I don't know that that's really the definition of AI, or the definition of I, as I would understand it, of intelligence, I mean. Right? Like, does that intelligence, is a video game intelligent just because it can do things as if it's, you know, in a way that it seems like it's real, right? And so to me, intelligence is not just, intelligence is not the ability to create something that is not, it's not just the action. I think it has to be, because human intelligence, or animal intelligence to some extent, is something that it has to be guided by a sense of, or, well, some form of volition, some form, like perhaps, and I'm just considering, volition means it's kind of you're wanting to do something, or free will, which I know some people don't even think free will is. But like, I don't know how else to describe it. And I know, like animals, for example, well, I guess animals typically we don't associate with having free will, but they could still, you know, I mean, we describe intelligence as something that something does, right? But the problem is, you know, when you're dealing with these computer programs, it's not really a thing. It's just a program. And so I guess that's where the artificial comes into it, that it's able to sort of do the same thing. But my argument is that if we were to, like, if just because something, you know, I just don't think, just because something mimics something doesn't mean that it can be intelligence. And I think it's irrelevant, you know, when we talk about the Turing test, which is, you know, when a robot is able to sound in a way that I can't distinguish it from a human. I don't know that should be the metric to measure intelligence, or a computer for that matter. Because a computer, they've been able to, you know, in a way that I can't distinguish. Like, that doesn't mean that it's actually doing it. Does that make sense? And languages, you know, yeah, they're complex, but they're not, or, well, I should say they seem complex, but I don't think they are that complex. I don't think it's that hard. I think with enough time, language, the way we organize our words, we don't really think about it too much, right? But in reality, I think it's simpler than we realize. And so we're overrating language. It's not that hard to create, you know, I mean, there are only, like, even the English language, there's which, by the way, it's a pretty complex language, right? It has a long history of poetry, and perhaps it's the lingua franca, right? It has had the most opportunity as a lingua franca to have so many ideas imbued in it. And even so, even under those scenarios, there are still only a certain way, number of ways in which our ideas are organized. And there are also only so many concepts and ideas that we even have. And I believe a lot of that is affected by our culture and our society and also our history, but that doesn't mean that we can't have different sort of cultural norms and ideas and ways of thinking about things. I believe that there is more to be done than we have done already. I don't believe that our society as it is today represents how things, sort of the totality of all the possibilities. I don't think humans have discovered everything. And when I say discover, it's not really about discovering. It's that they didn't come up with it. We only have a limited, how many cultures do we have? How many civilizations have there been? Not that many, believe it or not. Major civilizations. Not that many, less than 100, right? But imagine if there had been thousands and thousands of them. So what do you all think about this? Yeah, this is definitely a topic we can continue to talk about. So thank you all.